Welcome to the Mission Thriving Life podcast, a weekly podcast from Mission designed to help you thrive, not just survive, through the challenges of life, leadership, and faith. My name is Nick Asolis. I, along with Joel here, are going to be your host today as we really tackle something that's critical to everyday life, no matter what season we're in, but it's a challenge especially for the season that we're in that's affecting all of us right now. So I'm excited to jump into that. Before we do, though, just wanted to remind you all to subscribe to the podcast. If you're listening to us on your podcast provider, make sure you subscribe to us so you get notified when we upload a new one. Like I said, this is going to be a weekly thing, but it can be easy to forget sometimes. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to our channel. And as well, leave us some comments below. Let us know what you think about, interact with the content, maybe even suggest some topics for future podcasts. So without further ado, Joel, you want to introduce the topic to us today?
Yeah, that's good. It's good to be back. Episode 2.
Episode 2.
It's awesome. As of yesterday, as you know, here in Arizona, we joined the host of other states who are sheltering in place and sort of bracing for the peak of the virus here in our state. And additionally, you know this because you have kids like I do. Public schools are officially closed through the rest of the year, which is really crazy. I mean, you have a senior, and
no, I have a junior.
You have a junior.
Yeah.
You have a junior.
He has a girlfriend who's a
Girlfriend's
senior.
a senior. That's what it is.
The sad one.
So, you know, it's just affecting people in a lot of different ways, especially our seniors. We've been talking about that today, and you know, what we can do for them. But it's just a really wild time. But here's what this means is sort of with those two specific announcements, what was new and novel for us with this season of sort of social distancing has now become a new normal for us and for the foreseeable future. We're not sure how long, but for the foreseeable future. And I actually heard somebody this morning say that April is going to be the longest month of the year.
That is so true.
And I think that is true. I think it's going to feel that way.
I know. I was just thinking about this. Somebody had asked, I think it was last week, I saw on a blog post or something, somebody had asked, what do you miss most about the old days? The old days being like 3 weeks ago, you know, and
so
life was
long
normal.
ago.
Yeah. And at first I thought the movie theater. I miss going to the movies. I love to do that. And then I thought, no. And I thought, it's actually going to the grocery store and not having it look like a dystopian film. But then when I really thought a little bit longer, it just kind of stuck with me for a while. It's actually the gym. And it's not because I'm obviously I'm not some gym rat. But for me, going to the gym was like an anchor point of my day. And it was like this springboard that I used to get started every day. And so not having that has kind of left me floundering a little bit, I guess you could say.
Which is super relevant to what we're going to talk about today, as you know, in just a minute. But and this is relevant in our world as well. And in fact, for those of you who attend our church or you watch online, in the first part of this series, I told you how about we've been trying to do some fun, creative stuff in this season. You know, pass the time camping in the backyard, set up a theater in the house, laser tag, that type of stuff. Just trying to make it fun and so that we have a good story to tell on the end of this. Our kids have a good experience at home. But here's the problem with that is it's not sustainable. Like that's part of, as awesome as that is, like doing stuff like that day in and day out, it's just not sustainable in this season. And now that the newness and the novelty of this have sort of started to wear off, the reality of this new normal is setting in, and we're realizing something like most everybody else is realizing, and that is that our previous normal isn't working anymore. Yeah. And we've sort of got to figure out a new way to approach this season, which seems sort of obvious, but there's a lot of people trying to just continue on with the way they were living before.
Yep.
You know?
Yeah. I feel that so much. I think we all, like if we could see a camera of the audience or whatever, I think everybody would be nodding their heads right now.
Sure.
We talked about this in our small group Zoom call a couple of weeks ago, just how we're all, there's no playbook for it. So we're all just kind of trying to adjust. And I think we're finding out pretty quickly that trying to do life, especially if you have kids that are supposed to be in school, and especially if your job is affected, like it's just not possible to keep things going the way they were. You have to confront it. So I'm feeling that.
Yeah, and here's the thing, and just to set up the conversation for today, what we're all really realizing is that the current circumstances broke our rhythm. That if you had a rhythm that was good, and it was something that you'd gotten used to and you felt good about, like this sort of crisis and the change in circumstances and a whole bunch of things you don't have control of broke. You don't go to the gym anymore, and like it broke a sort of rhythm in our lives that has sort of kind of thrown a lot of things in disarray. And you wouldn't think, this is even for people who are the virus hasn't come to their home yet, and it's, maybe it's not even affected their income or their job yet, but it's still changed life
Yeah. So
in a big way.
I think I know what you're talking about. I think most of us do, but it sounds like this word rhythm is something that you're going to refer to a lot. So can you kind of like maybe explain more, dive deeper into what you mean by the word rhythm?
Yeah, that's good, because I'm sure that means a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Especially musicians.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I don't mean. I don't just mean your daily routine or your schedule or what a typical day looks like. I mean, it's inclusive of that, but it's bigger than that. I more specifically, and this is the way I wrote it in sort of the podcast notes I wrote out here, is this is your daily and weekly approach to sustainable life. Like if you're trying to sustain a certain level, and I don't mean like level in terms of like, status in life or, like standard of living. I mean, like if you're trying to experience a life that's sustainable, a life where you feel like you're succeeding, you're winning, you're healthy.
Right.
This has sort of changed things. And, the approach we were taking at the beginning when it was new and novel, that's not sustainable.
Right.
And when I mean rhythm, I mean, this is not about survival. This is an approach that fosters internal and external sustainable, and I'll use the word harmony, sustainable harmony. It's like, hey, I'm getting along well with myself. It is well in my soul, and it is well with me with others. And I think, life as circumstances change, we're always trying to find a good rhythm in that. And as you're going to see in a minute, this is a very biblical idea, but that's sort of broken in a large way. And as life shifts, as the climate and culture around us shifts, what might work in one season, a rhythm that works in one season, may not work when certain key factors and circumstances change.
So when you're talking factors, you're talking like, you are talking work schedules, working from home, kids, all that, all those outside things being sort of tossed up and changed. Those are the factors.
Yeah, but I think that's what we tend to focus on. The not being able to go to the gym and not being able to have a quiet afternoon if that's something you're used to, or your regular cup of coffee, sitting at the coffee shop in the morning, scrolling through your news feed or whatever that is, or weekly gatherings with friends. Like there's a whole bunch of those things that we don't realize. It's not just about the change in schedule and routine. It's about the life we experience. We talked a little bit about this last week, the life we gain from that, the human connection, how that feeds us and how that impacts other relationships, and the way we feel about ourselves and the way that we feel about how life is going and our purpose and things like that. And this is sort of a good news, bad news thing. And it's mostly good, I think. And I'm actually a bad news first type of guy. I don't know if you're a good news, bad news type of guy.
I'm a good news only kind of guy, I guess. But so why are you a bad news first kind of guy? Where'd that come from?
It's a good question.
Enneagram thing or
it might be. There's an Enneagram geek out there going, right. Yeah. Oh, I can explain that. All the numbers and what they like.
Leave it in the
news
comments.
Yeah, that's good. I'd like to see it if you have in the comments. I love the Enneagram. No, here's why. Partly it's because I'm an optimist. I am a 7, and I'm yellow. And you just pick your type of assessment. But it's also because I think all of us to some degree, you said I'm a good news only guy. Like I think we love redemption. And for me, I know this sounds a little bit silly, but like I want the bad news first because I want to know that there's good news coming behind it. And there is good news coming behind in this particular conversation. But I think the bad news first is if you were experiencing a good rhythm, and this is the obvious part, a healthy rhythm before this crisis, you've likely discovered that it's broken and it's not working for you. And it's not that one day that rhythm won't work for you again. It's just that it's broken for right now and it's not going to work for this moment and for this season. And you got to find a new rhythm. The good news is if you had a healthy rhythm, it probably wasn't by accident. You probably worked at it and you were intentional about figuring it out, and likely with a little bit of work, probably a little bit more than previously because it's a bit more of a challenging season, you probably figure it out again. You work toward discovering a new rhythm. Also the good news is if you weren't in a healthy rhythm, this is my favorite part, and this should give us all hope. Like if you weren't in a healthy rhythm, if you were regularly feeling depleted or on edge or feeling down or you're in a season of stress, it's possible this crisis could sort of add to that, but it broke that rhythm too.
Yeah.
And we're all sort of in the same boat in that we have an opportunity to sort of fix our rhythm. In fact, this last Sunday, when I was talking about how challenging this season might be. I was talking about the fact that this could potentially be a gift. And for some people who are listening, as they've realized that their rhythm is broken, they've started to realize some other things, like they had an unhealthy rhythm professionally, or they had an unhealthy rhythm relationally or socially or financially. And this is this crisis, and this is what crisis does, and challenge and difficulty. It squeezes in on us, and it sort of brings those things out. Yeah. And so you've started to realize, some of you are realizing you weren't prioritizing the things that were most important in life. And this season is potentially an awesome gift, and one that will have a lasting impact towards you having a healthier rhythm on the other side of it as you realize some of those unhealthy things.
That's awesome. I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, but I love the idea that this season is a gift, but also it's something that we're all in together. You know, I mean, I can't think of, in preparing for this episode, I was trying to think of, like, what on earth, like, where is the human being on earth who hasn't been, like, made aware of this at the very least and isn't somehow affected by? I mean, I'm sure that person exists, but it takes some mental gymnastics to do. And so this idea that we are all in this together, and it's sort of an opportunity for us with healthy rhythms to put those, to the test, sharpen those, change those, which our ability to make rhythms, I think is an important human component. But then for those of us that maybe had unhealthy rhythms or no rhythms at all, which I guess by default would be an unhealthy rhythm.
Yeah, sure.
This is a great opportunity, while nobody's paying attention, to control, delete, reset, and maybe start to put some new things in place. I mean,
well, and this is what we talked about in the content meeting the other day, where this is sort of a foxhole experience.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's easy for me because I'm in different ways. I'm experiencing different things than you are, but, like, I can be for you because I'm dealing with the same thing you're dealing with. It maybe looks a little bit different in my world than it does in your world, but this is such a relatable idea right now, and even this idea of finding a healthy rhythm in this new normal that, again, we all thought sort of like, how long will this be? This can't be that long. It's not that big a deal. Initially, it came out, it's like, hey, we want social distancing, say 6 feet apart, do a few of these things for 15 days. Like, that was like the prescription. And now it's like, everybody stay at home.
Yeah. And rush to get toilet paper.
And rush to get toilet.
And then stay at home.
So that's completely different, you know?
So let's talk practical. I'm a ones and zeros kind of guy.
Yep.
So I know you have some practical suggestions for us.
Yep. And you're going to keep pushing me in that direction. So keep doing that. But I'm going to stay a little bit theoretical just another second. And here's what I want to be careful of. There is no one size fits all approach to this. Like, I'm not going to prescribe here's what you should do, and here's what you should do when you wake up, and this is what you should do after that. Cause I just don't believe in that. But I do believe in a biblical, or maybe even a divine rhythm, as we're going to see in a minute in the scriptures. I think there's a biblical rhythm or a divine rhythm for life. And the best place to see this is in the Gospel of Mark. And so if you're looking for something to study in this season, you should start reading the Gospel of Mark. It's the shortest of the Gospels, and it's the way in which it's written. I mean, most people believe that Mark got almost all of his information from Peter. So Peter's the eyewitness. Mark's recording it either because Peter's not a writer or doesn't like to write, or knowing Peter, he's got better things to do. He's just got a lot more things on his plate. But what we get in the Gospel of Mark is this rhythm. Jesus models this inside out rhythm. And if you look at it, you'll see this. You'll see this throughout Mark. And I think it reflects God's created order. In fact, I forgot I was going to bring an illustration to the podcast, but for those of you who are listening, it doesn't matter. You wouldn't see it anyway. But those of you who are watching, if you think about a piece of fruit like a banana or an orange, everything that God creates has integrity. So if you were to look at a banana, as you get it from the grocery store, and I were to ask you, hey, if I open this banana up, what do you think's on the inside of it? I mean, without hesitation, you'd go, a banana.
Right, banana
like,
stuff.
There's banana inside. There's like the eating part of the banana inside. Same with an orange. If I go, hey, what do you think's this orangey outer, almost rubbery coating on the outside? What do you think's on the inside of this? You'd be like, well, it's like an orange and like juice and like what you would think is on the inside. And as simple as this idea is, it's because when God creates something, it has integrity, and what's on the outside reflects what's on the inside. And So I'm less concerned with, it's why I said at the beginning, the specific schedule or the specific routine. I think if you had a healthy rhythm before, or people that have healthy rhythms, it started with internal health, an internal healthy rhythm on the inside that led to an external healthy rhythm. They were healthy on the inside, which led them to only engage in a rhythm that was healthy on the outside. And so what you see on the outside when you see health, and certainly you can mask that and people pretend and they make everything look okay, but people who truly have a healthy rhythm on the outside, you can almost be certain that that began. And what's true about them is they have a healthy rhythm internally on the inside for themselves.
That's interesting because we tend to focus on the opposite. We tend to focus on the outside and, losing the gym, in my case, and not quickly adapting to a new rhythm would be a sign of not that I'm, lazy or not physically healthy because I'm not going to the gym.
Yeah.
That would be a byproduct of that. But it what you're saying is it's more of a sign of a deeper lack of health internally.
Yeah.
So really that rhythm can be anything. It can be coffee, it can be waking up and not going to the gym, doing something else, but I get fixated on the gym. This is not a physical fitness podcast.
Well, here's another example. Like, we get focused on the external because that's a cultural lesson. That's not a biblical lesson.
Yep.
We're told like, hey, if you live in this sort of home and drive this sort of car and have this amount of money and you look like this, like you're going to be happy on the inside. Yet we all know that's actually not true.
Yep.
People have spent most of their lives trying to get all of the external factors right so that they can feel a certain way on the inside, and then it doesn't work.
So the tricky thing is then it's easy to fix the external rhythm.
Yeah.
We just insert whatever we see somebody else doing or, go find that thing and make that adjustment and then, take a picture of it and then boom, it's there. How on earth do you fix a broken or unhealthy internal rhythm?
Yeah, I think this is great because I think the scriptures have a lot to say about this. And I mentioned the Gospel of Mark. I'll come back to that in just a second. But, practically this is going to vary. And it's going to vary in a lot of ways externally because of the vast array of differences in our daily activities and our work schedules, our individual responsibilities. We all have different responsibilities. Our personal wirings, we talked about that a minute ago. We all have different wirings, whatever assessment you use. I'm a 7.
I'm a 5.
You're a 5.
Yep.
So, that's, we're going to relate to this differently. So that's why I'm not going to suggest or prescribe a specific sort of routine or approach. Right. And I'm weary of people, actually sort of resist people who do that. Because I think we can learn a lot more about the internal rhythms that, given our wirings, given the way God's designed us uniquely, given our personal responsibilities, unique life situations, the outworkings of that are going to look different. But but if it's healthy internally, even though they look different, you can have a different external healthy rhythm than me, and it still be healthy. And our rhythms look completely different, but both be healthy. And that's because we are different and we're wired different. We're different life circumstances. So I want to spend the rest of our few minutes here together talking about specifically how you achieve that, from my perspective, through the scriptures and the model of Christ. And I just came up with, and some of this is based on some reading I've done. I'll tell you about some of those resources a little bit later, and some research I've done, but also just me personally, my own growth in life. I want to talk about 4 essential elements to cultivating a daily, healthy internal rhythm. And this is sort of a mental checklist for me. This has become a mental checklist, and I remember for a while, I used to have a sticky note. I do this every time I need to remember something. I'll take a sticky note and I'll literally just put it on my computer because I open my computer almost every day,
right.
Except for Saturdays, my Sabbath. I don't open my computer on Saturday, but every other 6 days a week, I open it up. And literally it just had these 4 words. And I do that with anything I'm really trying to make a part of my normal rhythm or, a habit in my life. And the 4 words of this, I'm going to give them to you up front, and then we'll walk through each of them at a high level. We could do a podcast on every single one of these, and maybe we will at some point. But these are the 4 words. It's retreat, recharge, relate, reflect. Retreat, recharge, relate, and reflect.
So now, that's your checklist.
That's my checklist. Is did I do each of these things? Like, did I retreat today?
Yeah.
Did I recharge? Did I reflect? That's a big one. And did I relate? Did I connect with some people? So let's just start with the first one. The first one's retreat. We're not great at this as a culture in general because there's so much to do. And when I say retreat, I mean like from everything. I don't just mean getting away from people. I mean like retreating. And in the scriptures, when Jesus retreated, in fact, in Mark, the shortest of the Gospels, we talked about this, there's 9 examples just in Mark's short Gospel of Jesus retreating to prioritize his internal health, to spend time with the Father, to be sort of restored. His well-being externally depended on his retreating and finding a healthy internal balance and rhythm. In fact, in John 15, he explains this. In John 15, he explains that good fruit's produced by staying connected to the Father. So he would retreat regularly and spend time with the Father. And literally, if you look at the original language, what it actually sort of basically shows us is that good fruit doesn't have to be created. Right. Good fruit comes naturally from staying connected to the vine. And so that's what Jesus is trying to teach us, is going, look, I want you to follow my example. Yeah. The reason you see good fruit is because I'm staying connected to the vine. I'm staying connected to the Father. And Jesus not only modeled this, he said, look, if you want to have healthy fruit come from your life, if you want to produce healthy things, and I don't think this is just like work, this is like healthy relationships and personal joy and satisfaction and healthy parenting and work-life balance, all that stuff. He basically says, look, it starts by staying connected with the Father. And so that's why Jesus is retreating over and over and over. And so the question I always ask myself is, how am I staying connected to the Father? And there's lots of different ways to do this, but what we typically do, what we've done in our culture, is we've relegated reconnecting with God to a weekend routine. It's like every Sunday, that's how I stay connected to God. I go to church on Sunday. And Jesus is going, that won't work. It's not reconnecting one day a week and then disconnecting and living your week. I mean, you wonder why your life isn't producing healthy fruit. It's because you're not staying connected regularly and daily.
So this isn't just an introvert, extrovert, I need alone time thing.
Nope.
This is actually carving out time specifically to connect with God.
Yep. We're going to get to that in a minute. But this retreat, this specific type of retreat, at least in my mind, is a retreat to spend time with God. It's like, how do I get away? How do I retreat from life? It's not like I'm just I need to time out. I need to get a breath. My wife always says this, and we're going to come to this in a minute. I need a minute. Like that's something different. That's because I need to sort of recharge, which is second word. We'll get to that in a second. This is a retreat. Like I need to get away, and I need to go somewhere that's life-giving for me, that is so when I re-engage, it's going to be something that I can come back in a healthy way because of what I'm connected to.
I heard somebody one time say that a retreat is actually a strategic military tactic. It's not giving up or surrendering or running away. It's actually a strategic military move that has, it's part of your plan. You may be adjusting it and calling it on the fly, but it actually is a strategic thing. So that sounds a lot like what you're talking about.
What's funny, we didn't even talk about this ahead of time, but even when you say that, I think if I'm retreating towards God, then the things that are enemies or adversaries in my life are actually just coming close to my power source. They're coming closer to my power source. I'm actually leading them to their destruction.
That's right.
And not because of my power, but because of the one I'm retreating to. And so I think it's a beautiful picture. My wife's been doing an awesome job at this recently. As we've been trying to change our rhythm, and I just need to say this up front, like, we haven't whipped this. Like, we don't have this all figured out at home, and we're still working at it. My wife and I, each for our own rhythm, but for us as a family, we're zeroing in and we're working at it. We're trying to get there. We're tweaking and tinkering with things. But my wife has started as a family with the kids, joining them each day before they do their school work and stuff. Their new homeschool work. She's doing Jesus Calling, the kids edition with them, and she just sits down and it's just a thought, and it doesn't always produce like this. Oh wow, everybody's ready to do their schoolwork and everything goes smooth the rest of the day. But it is a recentering each day, and it's a retreat to recenter on, who are we living for? Where do we experience life from? And this is the key. It's like healthy rhythm in life. And, we talk about this around here. Our vision, our mission is to lead people to thriving life in Jesus. it starts with the life-giving source, and that's the vine, and staying connected to the vine. And that's what retreat's all about for me. So that's the first one. The second one's recharge. And there's a lot of ways to do this. And it's kind of funny because all these words can mean different things to different people. This is just my checklist, but recharging is actually a little bit of what you were just talking about a minute ago. Some people retreat to recharge. I'm not talking about retreating towards God. They retreat personally. Like, that's my wife. That's her. She's an Enneagram 1, and like, she needs to be alone, not alone with God. She just needs to be alone. Like, she needs to be by herself.
I feel that.
Like, that's a big deal. And interestingly enough, this is very connected to the idea of Sabbath.
Yeah.
Like, spending time doing nothing, like not working, not, trying to, this rhythm of Sabbath, it was work, rest. And God modeled that for us. And it's not a legalistic, but in principle, this is a way you recharge. Like, you need to figure out how you recharge, and people find rest in different ways. And I've found personally for me, I need to recharge in multiple ways. I need to recharge physically, I need to recharge emotionally, and I need to recharge spiritually. And so, I don't want to confuse this with retreat, because that's even recharging is different for me. I mean, I get energy from being with God, but like, I retreat to be with God sort of to find foundation and to find a centering, to go, okay, I'm not relying on anybody else for life. But spiritual recharging is even different from that. So let me say real quick. So physically recharging, we all need rest, but I need rest and exercise. Like, one of the hardest things for me is my gym right now. Obviously, nobody's going to the gym, and my gym had to shut down. And I gained so much energy from going to the gym. Like, it has wrecked my rhythm, because literally every day I would come to work, and me, I'm an extrovert. Yeah. And so, like, especially Wednesdays and Thursdays, I sit in my office most days and just study and research and write. Right. And by the end of the day, I'm exhausted. Yeah. I'm like, I feel so tired. And sometimes I feel stressed, and I come home, and my wife oftentimes, she'll be like, don't come home until you go to the gym first. Because she's like, I know that when you go to the gym, you're going to be around people. That's going to energize you, and your working out is going to give you more energy, because it does, the endorphins, all those things. I'm dead tired afterwards, but I'm energized in a different way. Right. And I come home in a much healthier place. And that's part of our rhythm, instead of me coming straight home from work. And again, it's just what works for me, but I need to be recharged physically by not only resting, but going to the gym and letting the gym beat me up a little bit, and competition with other people. And so that's something that recharges me physically. Emotionally, I think this is probably important for all of us these days. Like, I'm a positive person. Like, I need positivity. No offense, but negative people drain me like crazy. Yeah. But like, there's just some people I'm just like, oh gosh, you just drain me, because I'm like, I need positivity. And so, like, I've found, and I think this is true of all of us, we've got to limit our intake of this news and this crisis right now. Like, some of us are so fixated on it, it just has the ability to completely drain you of life and hope. And it's like, so I have to limit my intake of that. And I need some like positive mental nutrition, like just things that make me happier, that I enjoy, and it's killing me right now without sports on. Right. Like, in fact, I just found the greatest news today. Did you hear that they moved the Jordan documentary? They're supposed to come out in June. April 19th. Yeah, April 19th, which I was like, I know they had just a week ago. I was telling somebody, I know they have that in the can. They need to move that thing up. And lo and behold, so I'm excited. I'm looking forward to that. Like, but just positive news stories. And I remember like a week and a half ago going, could we just interview somebody who's survived the coronavirus and is like healthy now? Because like there's a ton of those people out there. Yeah. Could we just give some of the positive side of the story as well? And it's because I need that emotionally. And I already told you, Jen, her emotional need for recharging is just being alone. Yeah. She needs to be by herself. And I'll always ask her, like, so what do you do? Do you read? Or do you she's like, no, I don't do it. I'm just by myself. And like, she drinks this.
I'm wired a lot like Jen.
Yeah,
and
you are.
So like, I get it. You know, when I get done at the end of the day and it's just meetings, that's when I'm worn out and I'm like grumpy and I just needed to take, I enjoy my little 10-minute drive home.
Yeah.
I can just, calm myself, recenter, because I love people. I love being around people when I'm with them. But I need my introvert time.
And your family probably enjoys you a lot more on days when you don't have a bunch of meetings, on days than when you do have a bunch of meetings.
Never bringing them on this podcast. They could attest.
Next week, we'll be interviewing the Astolos family.
I won't be here.
So recharging physically, emotionally, and then spiritually, like this is different than retreat for me. This is like, I need experiences to be inspired, to be uplifted. My wife also, she just has these great ideas. She decided to set, we have the Amazon Alexa, the Echo in our house. And she's got a program every morning, music, worship music comes on in our house at 7 a.m. And it may sound silly, but like, it's just when I first wake up in the morning, it just does something to recharge me spiritually. Yeah. And like, it colors my outlook for the day, for the morning, regardless of what happened the night before or whatever's on the news. It's just sort of something that gives me energy and breathes life. And so, I don't know. I think that's something we need daily. At least I do, not just weekly. Right. And a lot of us have sort of started to, try to use the church on the weekend. I hear people say this all the time. I need it every week because I need it to get through the week. And I'm like, oh man, like you could be doing so much better. Right. Like, because it's not the church you need. It's not our songs. It's not messages. Like, you need to encounter Jesus.
Yeah, so true.
You need to connect with God because he's the source of life. And so this retreat and recharge, like what are the things that give you energy, that give you life physically, emotionally, spiritually? Is it reading a book? You've got to have those things because you need a good internal healthy rhythm, and retreating and recharging are good starting places for that. Number 3 is relate. We're all created for and have a need for human connection. We were designed that way. Yes, even those introverts out there, including you, Nick, we all need this. And it's why the writer of Hebrews encouraged us, to not give up the habit of meeting together. The context of that, by the way, was to inspire each other towards love and what's good. Yeah. And so it's like, hey, if you keep meeting together, you're going to be inspired to love better, and you're going to be inspired to take steps towards what is good. And so there's just this, hey, you need to relate with people. And when I say relate, I don't just mean like hang out or just be around people, but truly relate. Yeah. Like exchange life, especially with believers. There's this beautiful thing that happens. Like, you have the life of Christ in you, and I have the life of Christ in me. And when we get together, we have the opportunity to offer our flesh to each other and our sin to each other. Yeah. But there's also the potential that I'm going to experience the life of Christ in you. You're going to experience the life of Christ in me. And that in itself is life-giving. And that type of relating in the body of Christ is a huge part of what community is all about.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so I try to prioritize relating specifically, in a way that's life-giving, and life-giving human connection for me is relating to 3 types of people. And it may be different for you, but for me, I need to relate with people that I enjoy. Like, and when I say people enjoy, they don't have to be just like me, but it's true of me and it's true of you. This isn't a sin issue. You don't enjoy everybody equally. Yeah. Like, there are some people that are just like, and Enneagram will prove this to you. It's like, there are certain people that, like, when you're healthy, these are the people you enjoy being around, and they're not your number. Yep. It's a different number. And so, I need to be around people that I enjoy. I need to be around people who are different than me. Like, because being around people that I enjoy brings a level of, like, life's okay to me. Being around people that are different than me challenges me. Yeah. It helps me learn, which is also good for me internally. Yeah. I challenge and learn. And then, I don't want to be super spiritual, but like, the people that I see Jesus in most clearly because of who they are, the way they talk, the way they live their lives, those people are super life-giving and they're good for my soul. And so, trying to find ways, like, you're an introvert. So, like, I'm speaking from an extrovert point of view. Like, you're an introvert in terms of relating. I know this is important for you. Like, tell me about this from your perspective.
Yeah, I was actually reading your list, and I was thinking, gosh, that's so spot on for me too. Like, I've never written that down or thought about that or categorized that, but I obviously I'm drawn to a certain type of person, people that I love being around, people that I enjoy. I'm also drawn to, and I think we all are, in a sense, people that just kind of make you feel good about yourself. People that when you're around them, they make you want to be a better version of yourself as well. So, those sort of fit into there as well. It might be an Enneagram tweak, but when you say, people who are different from me, I have like a whole category of people that I'm like, except for those people, So, maybe there's a spectrum there,
Sure.
but,
that's why those are two different things. I'm not saying necessarily people you don't enjoy,
right.
But like there are people that you wouldn't put in the category of, hey, I enjoy or I don't enjoy these people,
right.
but they're different from you.
Right.
And they're people that have different perspective from you. Yep. And I mean, this is you. This is our relationship. Like the reality is we're very different, like, and you provide a different perspective. In fact, I've told you several times, like one of the things I love about you being in our content meetings is I'm pretty sure every single time I write a sermon, you bring up something I've not thought of every single time. And sometimes it's annoying to me, to be honest with you, but I learn and it helps me to see things. I'm going to talk to a bunch of people that see this from a different perspective, see it from a perspective that you do.
Right.
And so like, that's important and challenging. And it's not only helpful practically for me, it's helpful personally for me.
And don't even
to
get us
live
started
life
on
better.
Pac-12 versus SEC and the East Coast media bias.
Well, that's a
We'll butt
losing
heads
cause
today,
all
so
day
yeah, I
long
know.
for you.
I'm not
So
gonna bring it up. I did. Too late.
All right, so let me get this last one, then we'll wrap things up. The last one, retreat, recharge, relate, and the last one's reflect. And this may be actually one of the most important, or at least has become in my life. Daily reflection's good. We do this with our kids as well. It's another thing we do. Some of you do this. We do pals and wows. Yeah. It's like a high and low. We do it with our small group. We do it at the dinner table every night though with our kids, and it's just good for them to reflect on their day and it helps me to understand I went through a habit for a while. I haven't done it a lot recently, but especially when my older kids were younger. I mean, every night I used to lay in their bed. I'd just say, "Hey, did anybody hurt your heart today? Like, is there anything that I did that I just didn't want them to go to bed carrying any of that.
Right.
I wanted them to be able to sort of release that, and I would also want them to finish the day feeling sort of lighter. That's the thing that Jesus said. He wanted to make this exchange. His burden, his yoke is light. And I sort of wanted to try to take that off of them so they could go to bed lighter. One of the things I realized is nobody can really take that off of me but God. And so like for me, what became a habit was trying to finish my day with gratitude. Instead of focusing on all the things that were bad that were happening, maybe I would talk about some of those things with the Lord, or I would think about some of those things, but I go, okay, God, I know that you reign over these things. And I'm grateful. And I would just in my mind, lay in bed. This isn't a conversation with my wife. It isn't like this heavy prayer session on my knees. I mean, it may sound really unspiritual, but it's literally like I'm laying in bed. I close my eyes, and many nights thinking about all the things I'm grateful for, I just fall asleep. And it's because gratitude has a way of lifting a weight off of you, and it actually helps you rest. Which is connected to recharging. Is what we all need to recharge. And I'll just tell you, and this is for another day, but in the midst of the most challenging season of my life, every day, every night, I realized this was a lifeline for me. Yeah. And some people are dealing with this right now. The reality is some of you that are listening, you're in really difficult life situations. Maybe connected coronavirus, maybe not. Maybe this has sort of exacerbated those problems. Maybe not. I don't know. But it's really challenging. Yeah. And I'll just tell you, in the most challenging season of my life, one of my greatest lifelines was going to bed at night, just going, okay, God, I need the discipline of being grateful. And I'll tell you, it's probably the only way I slept in some of those seasons. Wow. Is just going, there is still a lot of things to be grateful for. A God who is in control that can be trusted, a Savior who gave his life for me. That's at the baseline true of all of us who've placed our faith in Christ. But there's so many other things, like I had food to eat today. I have a bed to get into tonight. I have people around me that love me. There's just so many of those things that we take for granted when we focus on the stresses and the anxieties and the difficulties of life. And for some of us, you can't rest and recharge without proper reflection and gratitude. And so,
I I'd read a book a few years ago called A Year of Living Biblically.
Yeah.
And it
Remember you
wasn't.
telling me about that.
Yeah, it wasn't written from a Christian standpoint necessarily. But this guide, set out to try to follow as much of the Old Testament, the rules like in Leviticus, like all those, as close to a T as he could. And the book is hilarious. By and large, there's a lot of funny things that just don't translate into modern society. But one thing that stuck with me was, the Hebrew tradition of giving thanks before each meal, and not just giving thanks the way that we do to get it over with really quick so we can eat.
Right.
But thinking thoughtfully about the farmer that prepared that, and then the person that cleaned it, and the person that took it to market, and the person and like giving thanks for each person along the way. And he said, after doing this for a few weeks, he began to feel an emotion that he had never been brought up to feel before, and that was gratitude. And he described gratitude as like one of those seed emotions that just grows and leads to joy and leads to all these other things. And so I was thinking about that when you were talking. Just it just reminded me how gratitude is one of those seed things, and what a beautiful way to go to bed at night.
Yeah, for sure.
The last thing is with thankfulness and joy growing in your heart. What does that look like in the morning?
Yeah, God, thank you for one more day.
Yeah. Thank
you for giving me one more day today.
That's a great picture.
So that's awesome. That was beautiful. Thanks for sharing that. So, I don't know if this is your checklist. I offer this as a something that's helped me develop an internal rhythm. And I got this from some resources. I'll share those in a second. But retreating, recharging, relating, reflecting, I just try to have this mental checklist. And today, which of these did I neglect? And I know that if I neglect one of these, for me personally, it begins to affect me internally, which I know is going to begin to move outward. And so I am, as much as I'm trying to figure out what's our new routine and our new schedule and all that other stuff, I know that if I don't sort of practice these 4 essentials for me internally, no schedule, no routine, no system, no new daily schedule or daily norm is gonna really put me in a healthy rhythm.
Right.
It starts here, and I actually want to read the scripture from the Message, the Matthew 11 passage I referenced a minute ago, to conclude, because I love the Message version of this. It says, "Are you tired and worn out?" Like I don't know if we're there yet, but there's a lot of people that are on the edge of that. Like, this is put an extra burden. It's putting an extra weight on people. Jesus says, "Come to me. Get away with me." And in some ways, all 4 of these things, I want you to listen for, all 4 of these things exist in this one passage. Get away with me, retreat. This is what Jesus did. And you'll recover your life. I'll show you how to take a real rest. Walk with me and work with me and watch how I do it. Learn the unforced rhythms of grace. I won't lay anything heavy or ill-fitting on you. Keep company, relating with me, and you'll learn to live freely and lightly. So that's sort of my prayer, is that people would find this life, this unforced rhythms of grace. I love that phrase.
I love that too. Rhythms of grace. That stood out.
That God's just got an unforced rhythm of grace He wants you to discover. Yeah. And I think, retreating with God, recharging in the way that you need to recharge, figuring out, specifically for you in life, we were talking about this a minute ago, how to relate, whether you're a extrovert and an introvert, and then, doing some proper reflection, is critical.
And so, to kind of put a bow on it, and how we sort of started out the conversation with these 4 things with your Post-it list. No matter what the life circumstance or the things that are happening around you out of your control are, you can still do these things.
Yeah.
If your rhythm, your life rhythm, is based on waking up and going to the gym every morning, and they take away the gym, and that's the first step of your checklist, well, then it's all blown up.
That's exactly right.
You've got to rebuild, you got to start over, and you can kind of wander around aimlessly for a while. But if it's these 4 things, you can do these no matter what's happening around you in the world, and you can find thing that fits into each slot and carve out time.
And I don't want to make this any longer, but it's so good because you just bring it back to such tangible things. Like, the reality is we keep using the gym example, but the gym is actually a reflection of something for you that recharges you.
Yeah.
And the reality is, and me too, not everybody, but for us, that's clearly the case. And the reality is it's not the external factor, it's the internal factor.
Right.
And because of your wiring, because of the way, you recharge in certain ways, you need something like, so if it's not the gym, what is it?
Yeah.
Is it some other type of physical exercise? Is it some other thing that's challenging for you physically or mentally or emotionally? You got to figure that out. But it's really these internal factors that lead us to the gym, that lead us to coffee by ourselves, time away with friends, whatever it is. In these different ways, these internal factors that lead us to an external rhythm, and not the other way around. We try to govern our personal well-being and being okay with these external things. That's when we get in trouble. And I imagine there's a lot of people who are going, "Oh my goodness, that's what I've been trying to do. I'm wondering. This schedule seemed like it was right to me. All these other things seem like they're right to me, but it's not working for me."
Yeah.
Now great. You know why.
Yeah, that's awesome. So you had mentioned earlier that there's some resources you wanted to point out.
Yeah.
Want to share those real quick?
Yeah. So the first one's a book. It's actually called The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry. So you can skip the first 3 chapters in that book because none of us are hurrying anymore. But in the sort of the second half of that book, he begins to talk about what he calls a rule of life. It's similar type of idea, like what's a good rhythm and what's a good schedule, or what's a good some good things, elements to have involved in your life that come out of the scriptures. And the other one is a fantastic book that's written by a longtime friend of my wife and I. Her name's Rebecca Lyons, called Rhythms of Renewal, and it's a fantastic book about experiencing restoration on a regular basis through rhythms of renewal. And she has some real great sort of perspective on all those things.
So Ruthless Elimination of Hurry and Rhythms of Renewal by Rebecca Lyons.
That's hard to say together, isn't it?
It is. That's a lot of R's.
It's a lot of R's. The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, and the Rhythms of Renewal by Rebecca Lyons, along with the 4 R's of retreat, recharge, relate.
It's a lot
reflect.
of
R's. Well, we should just call this the R podcast.
If this was Sesame Street, we'd be sponsored by the letter R for sure. Hey, well, that's a great podcast. Thanks, Joel, for that. I appreciate it. And hey, don't forget, as we're going to wrap things up, don't forget to subscribe, share the podcast with whoever you think would benefit from it, and even those that you think won't benefit from it. And feel free to leave your comments and reactions below if you're watching with us on YouTube. Thanks again, and tune in next week.
Yeah, thanks.